Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thursday Live Lesson. My name is Aldrine Guerrero. I am joined by my colleagues, Mr. Aaron, the voice Nakamura. Say what's up, Aaron?
What's up?
And Mr. Kahai, the legend Fergan. Say what's up, Kahai?
What's up?
We also have a very, very, very special guest today. We were kind of keeping up with this, with kind of OGs from the Ukulele Underground. So we have Mr. Brad Bordessa in the house. Say what's up, Brad?
That's it.
Hey.
Oh, the full applause.
Brad.
There we go.
So Brad is a resident from the Big Island of Hawaii, and he runs a website called Live Ukulele, which has been around pretty much as long as we've been around. So, OG, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Brad?
Well, I'm from Big Island. Kind of started playing ukulele when I was around 12, and got hooked with the bug. Got in kind of in the Hawaiian scene, surprisingly, just because of who I am. But that's just the music I ended up playing, and fell in love with it, and studied with the Kahumoku family and Herbota Jr. and James Hill along the way at various workshops, and have just, kind of grown with my skills into the web world and tried to share everything I've learned online through the website as best as possible. And moved on to teaching workshops for Uncle George Kahumoku on Maui, and done the Hawaii Island Ukulele Retreat, very lane to man, and different things here. And I can say that I have taught internationally now, because I taught a workshop in Germany over a weekend.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
Do you speak German?
No, not at all.
Oh, I was like, just do the workshop in German. So I say OG Ukulele Underground member because you've been on the forums since like the first year. Also, you were a hippie guy on the forums, you know, and I remember that that banner, that Live Ukulele banner. It was it was in your signature. So when was it the first year? Am I correct with that?
I feel
you join
like
Ukulele Underground.
Well, it's been. I mean, I was right there at the beginning for Ukulele Underground. But then, as far as my website, I think it's been lots of different versions. So there was like the low level. I think it was called Picking It Up. It wasn't even Live Ukulele at the time.
Oh, really?
Picking It Up was before you guys, and then maybe the real site came after, just right after.
So tell us about Live Ukulele and what can they expect from the site?
Well, Live Ukulele is just a home for all my teaching resources, because I teach in person and at workshops and things. And most of the time, what I'm teaching at those places, I try and also bring onto the website through different materials and sheets and resources. And, there's 260, 270 pages of just written lessons and lots of videos to accompany them, along with my ebooks, which are kind of my flagship study guides and materials that I share with folks.
Right on, man. Right on. And so, what do you mainly focus on? Because I know you've studied under guys who kind of focus on on tone and just playing clean in general.
Yeah, my thing is fundamentals. I was told long ago by Herbota Jr. when I was kind of the hot rod young kid trying to learn all the stuff and play all the fancy things. It's like, Brad, you have the fundamentals. You just need to practice the basics. And so I took that to heart and just kind of backed way off. And now that's what I try and share with everybody, is that no matter where you're at on the skill spectrum, you still have to pick a note.
That's
and
true.
Even if everybody plays quarter notes, so the quality of those quarter notes can be improved infinitely. So that's sort of my thing. Is I actually just did a video about this, but it's like, chill out, people, chill out. You're trying to do too much. Just because take a chill.
Because a lot of people go to the route of a lot of people are inspired by Jake and these very dynamic guys and stuff. But then you name guys like Herb Ota and the Kahumokus and stuff. That's pretty much the other side of the spectrum, where they're super duper mellow.
Yeah. The whole idea is nahe music, right? They're trying to
nahe music. Yeah. Aaron actually told me that you were part of a Slacky festival over there in the Big Island as well, or you participate in the Slacky stuff.
Not Slacky so much. There was a Slacky workshop for many years that was held down in Pahala, which is way in the middle of nowhere in the south of the island. And I went to that kind of as a budding musician for many, many years. That's since ceased to kind of happen. But I kind of, went from workshop student, scholarship student, and worked my way up through the ranks. And towards the end there, I was actually one of the teachers, which was so wild, because, it's like Uncle Sonny Lim and Uncle Dennis Kamakahi and Herbo Jr.
Some legends.
Yeah, just everybody was there. It's like, I can't believe I'm on the T-shirt too. It's amazing.
That is cool. That is cool. So, being there from the beginning, like, what do you think about the landscape of ukulele today?
Online or just in general?
Both. Let's go with both.
Well, online, I think we have the double-edged sword of so many options now. I remember back in the day, it was Tropical Storm Hawaii, right? I remember finding that site for the first time. It's like, wow, somebody put these sheets here for me to learn from. And it was so great, but it was only like 1,000-something songs that were on there. And it was all handmade stuff. It wasn't much quality. And now you have so many different tab sites and so many different options. And everybody is just like always kind of ADD going from one thing to the next, finding like, oh, I like this song better now. Oh, I like this song better now. And learning to play those things. And so I don't think if you're learning online, you don't need to have quite as much commitment maybe as you did in the past when like YouTube was just becoming an idea. Like, hey, maybe I could learn to play ukulele on YouTube, which, I know you jumped up to fill that gap. But now there's so much.
There wasn't a lot of like video lessons back then, and I think Aaron just kind of or Ryan was very into video, the other guy who started the site with us, and Aaron, he was kind of playing around with like making videos and whatnot. So Ryan's like, hey, you kind of start doing videos and you play ukulele, why don't you guys do something? It's like none of us were qualified to do any of this, but then we're just like, yeah, you know what, Ryan, sure, why not? We're not doing anything right now. And 13 years later, we're still doing this. We're still not qualified to do this.
Still not qualified.
When can we be on the back of t-shirts, Aaron?
I think you guys are too humble. I mean, really the stuff that you put out is at the top tier of the quality.
I don't know. I mean, we just put out stuff that we like, and I mean, from the very beginning, we've always had that kind of vibe of like how you would learn here in Hawaii. Like if someone were to, or I would ask somebody like, how do you play this song? They're like, oh, it's like this is the chord and this is how you strum it and whatever, but we kind of wanted to take a step further. We're like, oh, how do we really break it down so that people online can learn it? Because that's how you would learn it. But then a lot of people were like, well, you didn't really teach me the song. You just told me what chords it was, which is how we learned it, right? Just like, like, how do you play that song? It was just CGD, and then that's it. They're like, oh, what do I do with that? But
you're lucky nowadays, if you get chord names. Before sometimes it was just
one right here and this I don't know what this is.
But what is that name, Uncle? It's like, I don't know, you just play it.
No, it's Uncle Minor 7.
Why you gotta know the name? Just hold them like that.
Just hold them, just press. Just press. Just do this. Yeah, so we've always tried to just keep that same vibe and stuff, and I think people kind of like it. But now, like, the videos people are putting out now is even, we thought like we need to kind of dig deep and we need to really explain which finger goes on what fret and stuff. Now people are like, oh, let's just learn another song in C or whatever so that everybody can play along, right? Like it's all about like inclusive and whatnot, which is cool. But at the same time, like I kind of want to see more progression, in the ukulele. And there are some people who are pushing it to to new levels, but back then really it was like the Wild West, and
totally
like trying to find stuff online and trying to be inspired by by ukulele players was slim pickings.
Yeah, remember when the Jake video in Central Park was like still in high res and they hadn't downgraded the quality because the time went by.
Disco, yeah,
right. Wow,
that was like. And like everyone and their mothers like wanted to learn that song, so like that's how like Dominator tabs became a thing, because he was the only guy who had like like good enough tabs for that song. Man, it was taking me back. Where's the time machine, Aaron? I need to go back. But so this Thursday live lesson is basically a place where we answer any and all of your questions. We can get questions from emails, from phone calls, from Hayes on the street, whatever you want to, however you want to get your questions to us. We are live, so we do have a live chat. If you have a question for us or for Brad or for anything like that, ask us in the live chat. We'll answer it right away. So Kahai, why don't you give us one of the questions that came in?
Yeah, one of the questions that we got was from Jamie, and I kind of told him like it's kind of hard to know what problems you're having without seeing your hands. But he said that he's having a problem with B7, the B7 chord specifically. And he said that I always get a bad tone on the E string. Either my middle finger is touching it or my bar shifts somehow and lets up on that E string, losing the tone of the string. Any suggestions? So.
Why don't we let our guests take a stab at that one? That one seems pretty
right on. Yeah. So my first inclination as far as examining where the problem is in any chord is where your finger is in the fret. And I have my mic going here, so I don't know if I could make this work. But when you're fretting a note, you can play a lot of different places inside the fret. You can be down in the fret, you can be higher up in the fret, and usually you get the best tone for the minimum amount of pressure if you play like 2/3 up the fret. So if you're playing B7 and everything is slid way down in the fret, you're gonna have to press a lot harder than you normally would if you were playing a little higher in the fret. And that's just because when you play higher in the fret, the break angle of the string is a little steeper across. So you don't have to press it down quite as much to make the string break across the fret. Whereas if it's far back, you have to push it way down because the break angle is shallower. And then also with bar chords, the next piece of the puzzle is really where your knuckle lines are. I don't even know what they're actually called. But if you get the string stuck in one of them, you're going to kind of lose the string and you have to press a lot harder in that bit. So what you can try and do is move the finger towards the ceiling or down towards the floor and see if you can find a spot where the strings sit more naturally. And usually that will address the problem. But really it's good that you know that the E string is the problem, because finding out which string is usually the first step, because then you can address it. But by using those different tricks usually helps the problem. Anything to add?
Yeah,
you guys.
That was like...
yeah. Wow, if that is not the best ad for live ukulele that I've ever heard, if you guys are not racing off to go to liveukulele.com yet, you should, because that is the best explanation I've ever heard. Something to add is maybe the position in the backside also. Like some people kind of pinch it right here, where the thumb is kind of pointing up to the ceiling. Another way to approach it is this, which is what we kind of tell people here, where your thumb is more pointing towards your headstock than it is towards the ceiling, because you're kind of doing this seesaw with the thumb kind of going pushing forward and the pointer finger pushing kind of back here. So instead of doing this, where you can kind of feel this part of your hand getting kind of sore, and it'll create some problems later on. So if you kind of alleviate that pain by just taking the thumb and having it down that way instead, so that'll be a little bit more comfortable. And of course, like we want things to be as natural as possible. So it's kind of like just when you close your fist, you're not closing it this way with your thumb here, and you're doing that. So you're closing it like this. So it's a little bit more of a natural grip having your thumb this way instead. So just like Brad said, position on your pointer finger on where the fret is. Then checking each string just to see which where the problem is, where you already know is the E. So just kind of just move it around a bit to see where you can kind of fix the problem. Like he said, usually kind of closer to the fret wire on the front instead of the back fret wire. And you don't have to kind of like choke the uke either. Like you just apply enough pressure so that you can hear the notes. It doesn't have to be like held super duper tight, so it's gonna cause problems later on too. But there, that's really it. Just stuff in the back. That's where your positions are.
Yeah. I like to you were talking about the knuckle line on your finger. So that first kind of knuckle line, I usually like to put that between my C and E string, and that usually gets the best kind of, because like I have kind of skinny fingers. There's not a lot of meat on it, so if I position the knuckle right between the C and the E, it kind of gives me enough flesh to push down on the strings to bar it. But I mean, I've told that to people with kind of skinny fingers, and they say that works too. But for everybody else, it's kind of, you just got to try it for yourself and see what works for you.
Does knuckle like roll off the string? That's why when you.
No, it's just that, like, see, like I can pinch my finger in that area, and it'll go down kind of a lot.
Oh yeah.
You know. So if you position it where that is not on a string, your knuckle isn't on a string, it allows your finger to compress and still be able to like give enough meat to the
yeah, because that's what I tell
barring across the strings.
That's what I tell people when they ask me like how do I do the E chord and stuff, where like the ring finger using that kind of first knuckle where the knuckle line goes on the E string and then kind of laying it kind of naturally on the C and G on top, on top of that, because that's where it bends, so that's how you clear the A string from underneath. So kind of same thing, I guess, right?
Yeah, just using the flesh between the knuckle, like after the knuckle, to like push down, but the knuckle itself doesn't really help in the barring. Yeah, it kind of gets in the way.
Yeah. Okay. Right on. Oh,
yeah, the way that Jamie too talked about his middle finger like kind of causing problems for the E string, it made me think that maybe he's using like trying to use the pad of his middle finger instead of more of the tip, right? Like, and really getting that arch over the E string, so it's like kind of dipping into that E string a little bit. So that's where it's like you just want to make sure that it's, and like you did, right? You just pick each string to make sure it's clear. But you really want to make sure that arch, you don't have to go crazy, but it's clearing the E string at least, it's going like that. And you're really using just the tip of your middle finger to push down on that C string. So, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. Do we have any other questions?
Well,
live chat.
Yeah, we actually got a question that asked, who asked this? Sorry. Rob asked, who made Brad's ukulele? So.
Yes.
That's what I asked too.
This is it's a Morbetta by Chuck Moore down in Opihikau of the Puna district. Yeah, it's spruce top. It's gotten so dark over the years, I can't even believe it. It was, I don't know, it was like almost white when I first got it, and it's become like old guitar, dark. And cutaway. It's a pretty basic model as far as what he does, but plays great, sounds great. I just love it to pieces and feel spoiled every time I play it.
Yeah, offset sound hole.
How old is that uke?
It's a 2013 is when he built it.
Oh snap!
So we're doing our time for sure, but she's holding up great.
What pickup do you have in there?
I have the Bags 5.0.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I noticed that on the side you have some controls, right?
So that's like my favorite reason for the offset sound hole. Otherwise, like sound wise, I'm not exactly sure about the benefits or not, but it allows you to have the little internal volume knob.
Oh,
just very.
Oh, and there's a
accessible
sound port.
Yeah, so there's a sound port,
a side sound port. Oh, that's what that is.
But the offset sound hole makes it really easy to get to the battery and to have the volume control.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So that's cool. Just functionally, I like the offset sound hole just because it makes it so easy. Being a performing musician, it's like, oh, my battery's dead. I got to change it as fast as possible.
yeah, that's like the worst thing.
rip it out of there, and it's a piece of cake.
That's probably one of the best reasons we've heard for like that offset and like the sound port and stuff. Because usually, if we go to people who make ukuleles, they're like, oh, it definitely adds a difference or it makes it sound different. And we're like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can hear a difference.
Debatable.
It sounds okay, but like ukuleles with the center sound hole also sound pretty good too. So, but yeah, that functionality is.
Me, I have no idea. I think there's so many other factors that it would be really hard to pin down. I definitely know that it makes the sound louder up top. As far as overall sound quality, no idea. But I've been trying some video stuff, and I've had the lavalier going on, and I found that I can't record video with this one. or my Blackbird, which also has the side sound port, and I had to go back to my old Kamaka because it doesn't, and that let the sound balance a lot better because there wasn't as much coming up.
Yeah, straight up to the mic.
Yeah.
Have you ever recorded with that, like CD record?
With this one?
With that, yeah.
Yeah. This is I did my entire 99% of my last album with this ukulele.
Oh, nice. And then like where do you mic it?
So for me, if you're looking at the mic, sitting in a chair, if you're the player, I usually put it just like, I don't know, 35 degrees to the left and pointed like right at where the neck meets the body, level.
Oh, okay.
Level with the instrument. Yeah. And it works for this one. I mean, that's so subjective as well. But I use a Neumann KM184 is the mic that I used. And that plus the DI plug got a pretty decent tone, I think, for the album.
And then you kind of blend the two.
Yeah, I bring the DI down, so it's a lot less, but it has a little bit of a warmth and a meatiness that the mic doesn't have. So I think it's best of both worlds to use both.
Oh, nice.
Good approach to it. Do you run any effects on it, like for the album?
Just delay and reverb, simple stuff. And I mean, mainly it's EQ. If you get your EQ right, you can get away with murder, really.
Yeah. How do you usually EQ?
So I think every track on the album, except for maybe like a live one or something, a low cut up to like 100 or 80, just because there's nothing down there for an ukulele. And then usually like 200 to 220 is kind of boomy on most ukes, I find. And so I drop that down 3 dB or so. And then just a high shelf, push the highs a little bit, makes it sing in the mix. And beyond that, it's really kind of depends on the context. But finding the honk is the most important thing, especially if you're trying to mix like a piezo pickup. I've heard people like, "What's wrong with my recording? It sounds terrible." And it's like, it's because you need like to take all your mids away. all of the mids just need to go away.
Quack quack. That's cool, dude. So doing albums and stuff, you also mentioned you went to Germany. Where else have you gone? Where else have you played?
As far as playing, I did a little mini tour of the Seattle area a handful of years ago and just did some workshops, and I actually played at the Seattle Folk Festival.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty cool. They had like
huge,
it was actually Neil Chin put together the ukulele showcase.
Cool.
And so I played at that, and that was great. I wasn't sure what to expect, but they put me in a huge big like convention hall. Super reverby, but somehow it sounded great. And everybody was stoked. My grandma came up, and it was good fun.
Aw, awesome.
But I mean, to be honest, I haven't been around that much. I mean, I have been going to Maui once a year for Uncle George's workshop, and I just did the workshop in Germany because I was there and I knew somebody who could hook it up. But otherwise, I mean, I stay pretty close to home.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So, do we have any other questions, Kai?
I think he's muted. He's muted because some people in the chat were saying that they were having video issues, so he's trying to fix that.
But I don't think it's on our side.
Well, yeah, okay. Well,
I'm back. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a Josh asked, how important are fingernails, long versus short?
Let's let our guest lead again, and then we'll talk about what do we think afterwards. This is nice. We got an expert in the house, that's why let the expert talk.
Oh, I think we have several experts, to be honest. But thank you. Left hand nail should be short. I've seen people who say like, "Oh, I want to keep my nails." Mostly women. I want to keep my nails, but I want to play ukulele. It's like, that's a problem. You got to have short nails on the left hand, in my opinion. And right hand, it kind of depends on the sound you want. I think that for like jazz and more mellow finger style stuff, you can get away with just the pads of your fingers. If you want a little more articulation and kind of that bright bright, snappy, contemporary ukulele sound, you're probably going to want a little bit of fingernail action going on. And for me personally, I only do my thumb, index finger, and middle, and that's sufficient. I could do my ring, but I don't really use it that much. So it kind of depends on your style, what you need. I started out with just a thumbnail.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Well, for me, is actually the opposite. Like, I like to keep. I mean, other than my thumb, I like to keep my ring and my pinky finger kind of long because I do a lot of those like rope and rasgueros and stuff. So when I strum, and I want to keep my pointer finger long, but then I just wear it down doing like a lot of that strum, so it just doesn't work. But during this quarantine, I've actually like managed to make that longer than usual because I'm not like gigging anymore, so it's not breaking. But once I start gigging again, it's guaranteed just gonna go back. So I can't keep them that long. Middle, I try to because I like that kind of thumb middle finger kind of picking and stuff. But as far as tone goes, the longer your nail is, the brighter that tone is gonna be. So if you like that kind of bright tone, because when you think about it, the longer the nail is, the more nail is going to hit the string rather than kind of flesh, so if you keep it at, I like to keep my thumb. A lot of people think that my thumb is super duper long, but it's actually not that long because I like to kind of hit it with the flesh first and then finish off with the nail right at the end, so you get this kind of density from the flesh, and you get you get the warmness from it, but a nice bright attack, that goes with it. So you get kind of a more rounder tone than just pure nail, because a pure nail, you can hear it and it's just kind of very very articulate, very bright and stuff, but it's a little too bright for me because the ukulele is already a naturally bright instrument. So just making, hitting it with the nails, especially if you're gonna hit it with all 5 of your fingers super duper long and you're doing these like strums and stuff, it's gonna be clackety clack everywhere. You don't want that either. So for me, it's finding a nice balance between long and short, because there are like some kind of mellower tunes that I like to play, and I definitely go from I switch up the attack to a little bit more this way so that I can get more flesh, and I get a better tone that way as well. So if my nails were too long, regardless of what angle I do the attack, it's gonna be more on the bright side. So I like to have a more mellower tone sometimes. What do you think, Aaron?
For me, it doesn't matter because I only strum, really. So yeah, so I keep my pointer finger like a little bit long, but then it's mostly because I use like that finger, the Alaska pick for playing guitar. But the rest of it, I'll keep it like slightly long and then definitely short on the fretting hand. But yeah, other than that, just whatever you think your sound needs, that's probably what you should do. Yes.
Very important.
And then yeah, it's kind of just a personal choice. And then as far as keeping, like, you also want to try to make sure that there are no rough edges. Sometimes you'll get nicks and stuff on your fingernails, and that can add to that kind of that clackety sound that you were talking about. So definitely keep them trimmed and kind of filed if you can. I know some ukulele players just swear by only filing, and that makes sense too. But I usually just trim and then file down, just to make sure and keep that in check.
Yeah, me too. A lot of people. I mean, it's like one of my students, Suki. Actually, she swears by just the filing, and she tells people that I told her that. I'm like, no, not all file. You just gotta finish it up with the file. I didn't say that. Don't tell people I said that. Because you can cut it like just so that you get the right length that you want, and then shape it with the file. That's what I've always kind of done. Because you just, I don't know, when you cut it with the nail cutter, it's just that rough edge, and I like to smooth that out.
Yeah.
Well, you Kahai?
I always think it's funny when people like send us messages and they're like, how do I grow, or I can't grow nails? Like, does that mean that I can't play ukulele? And I laugh because I'm like, well, I haven't had nails since, I don't know, like since forever, since I can remember. Like I'm a pretty chronic, like I'm really bad at biting my nails, and I've always had my nails super sharp because of that. But then I've always played ukulele anyways, and I don't think nails definitely do help with your tone, and they help with techniques and stuff, but it's not necessarily like a be all end all, and it shouldn't stop you from playing and enjoying your uke either way. It's like you might have to adjust your technique, or you might have to change your playing a little bit, but you can still have fun without nails, and you can still like do a lot of stuff too. I think we were talking about Imua, right? Imua doesn't really have nails either, and he's a fantastic ukulele player. So it doesn't really stop it. Yeah.
I was going to talk about Abe, because we were just talking about Abe last week or 2 weeks ago and stuff. And that guy has no nails, and he's jamming it up with the best of them.
Yeah. Yeah. You can definitely still be a professional musician. He's a professional ukulele player and not have like very long nails.
Yeah.
Although a lot of them do. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of professional.
It helps. It definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like you and Brad, right? Like you both have different lengths and different preferences for what you want, and I think that's what a lot of people too. Like you need to find what's gonna work for yourself. You can't. Just take like somebody's word and say like, oh, grow out your nail, do this much inches. It's like, you really got to figure out what works for you, what's going to make you a better player. So, yeah. Cameron asked, how do I get that Canadian Folky Sound? I recently used the Canadian tuning, tuning up 2 steps. So I get a more melodic tone, but what are some techniques I can use to get that traditional tone?
Yeah, we couldn't have had a better guest. Maybe James Hill, like someone. But someone who studied under James Hill is in this room. So why don't you take it away, Brad?
Well, yeah. I wouldn't say I'm any kind of qualified to speak on the Canadian sound. I have spent a lot of time with James. I picked up as much as I can, but I definitely don't consider myself like one of his style-wise. I just never even tried to figure out what he
alien language, man.
Totally. Really, I mean, there's opportunities to learn with the man himself. That would be my first recommendation is, check out some of his work and some of his courses. They're great. He does a good job teaching that style and that sound, and I believe he has it available for both standard tuning and the English A whatever it is. D6. But as far as like what I might do to try and rip off that sort of style would be to try and play open chords. And what I mean by that is voicings that span many frets. So for instance, you could just play normal C and that would be fine. Or you could even play like this C. This would be maybe a more folky sounding option. Is if you were to play like 0-0-3-7 for your C, that creates just a little bit more of a wide mandolin-y kind of sound. I don't know, does that come through on the mic?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then for maybe G's, you could play 0-2-3-5. And just by getting that extra note up higher than the chord you're used to, a lot of times you can kind of get that little bit more singing sort of sound. But other than that, I really don't have a lot to add.
Yeah, I have no idea how James Hill gets that very, mandolin banjo-y, sometimes even kind of tone with a low G, because like banjo-y sounds like it could be done, but with the re-entrant string, but watching him play with that low G and still doing those kind of licks and stuff has always like boggled my mind. Like I don't know how you would do that, but my advice would be to take a look at some like mandolin techniques and some like banjo techniques and stuff like that, just because those are what you would think of when you think of folk music, so just listen to a lot of folk and trying to like emulate some of the stuff that they do and some of the voicings that they that they have. If it's available to you, I would pick up the mandolin and then like just kind of learn how that instrument works and see what kind of techniques and voicings you can carry over to your ukulele. But yeah, definitely what Brad said, with try finding new voicings of a chord that you already know, but just have a very big range as far as like the low open G to like the high E that you have on your A. That range is going to give you a nice folky sound. What about you, Aaron?
Well, yeah, I have no idea how he does any of that stuff. So, but I mean, it's really everything that he does all put together.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that a lot of it has to do, like I'm thinking that what you're asking has to do with the way that he strums to kind of get that, and then the way that he finger picks.
Yeah.
So
it's like a pluck
and he does.
He
does a great job of kind of blending the two or mixing them, like alternating between them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking that it probably has to do with that, and that it just goes down to like getting comfortable with doing both of those things separately, and then being able to kind of morph in between them. So I'm guessing just kind of practice that. Listen to a lot of the type of music that you're trying to emulate, and then imagine in your mind how you would recreate that sound using your own instrument. And that's how we like all of us kind of learned how to play music, because we didn't have access to video. A lot of the time we were just imagining what they were doing and then trying to recreate it and coming up with new ways to do things. And that's how like a lot of ukulele techniques have been innovated, trying to recreate sounds from other instruments or recreate sounds from the ukulele, but just doing it in your own way. So try it out and listen. Like I think that's one of the underappreciated kind of skills of a musician, is being able to listen to music intently and then being able to recreate things using your instrument.
I don't know. You gotta beat James Hill. I don't know.
That's pretty much.
Grow another set of arms, and then you can play.
Be able to hold things and tap on your ukulele at the same time.
You record like a funk album, and then do all these learn how to play a bunch of other instruments, and then maybe you'll sound like him. I have no idea. And like, go ahead. Sorry.
No, he plays fiddle just as well as he plays ukulele.
It's
crazy. It's not fair, is what it is.
I always
among other instruments.
I always love telling the story of like Aaron picking me up we went like record shopping around the island, and then he put in James's CD, like funk CD, and it's like, wait, this is James? He's like, yeah, and on every instrument. I'm like, what? That is that
so good.
Yeah, too much in one person. I don't know how he does it all. Yeah,
he was Let me share this one story. We were in Reno for the Reno Ukulele Festival together, and it's one of the first times that I've actually shared the bill with James. And I'm like, dude, I really love the way that you played Little Wing, and it's one of the first times I played Little Wing, on stage. So I'm like, I have to play that. I have to play that with you. Could you come down? Can you come on my set, play Little Wing with me, and it will get all these other like ukulele players as well. So we had Mike Powers and we had Brittany Paiva like join in, on that song. And I wanted him to kind of like play what he did on the album, but he's like, okay, cool. Do you mind if I use like my slide ukulele? I was like, I guess, like that's not what I wanted, but I guess you could do that. You're James Hill, you can do whatever you want. But that's cool, I guess. But like when we started kind of just going over and practicing it, and he started doing that, I'm like, dude, how is this any fair? Like, how are you that good on a slide ukulele? it was insane. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, you
Because no
definitely
one
playing
is
it,
good
I
at a
guess.
slide ukulele. But then James Hill is apparently.
He was so good. Yeah, we have to link that video because there's someone took video of that and played it. I'm just like, this is insane. Like, how are you? What?
Yeah. I think too what Aaron said, like and that is like how we all learn, right? Like we listen to music that we liked and then we just try to recreate what the musicians are doing or what they sound like, you know, with what we think in our heads. But I kind of feel like James probably, that's one thing like Cameron might want to like definitely listen to James and listen to like that tone or that sound that he wants to try and get. But maybe I kind of feel like maybe James listened to like a whole bunch of music, you know, and he didn't just like limit himself to ukulele or limit himself to, okay, this is what I have to sound like. So that's probably why he does all the things that he does, and things that we're like, how did you even come up with that? How did you think of doing that? Is because he listened to like, you know, whatever, like just listen to whatever you can get your hands on almost. It's good to like have all these different resources, you know? Yeah.
Or be from another planet, man. That guy is
Pretty much.
It should be illegal to be that good, you know? Citations should be given. But yeah, like I mean, I cite the movie Crossroads all the time with with Ralph Macchio. So that's kind of what I envisioned it as, like when he was doing his slide thing, because you know Ralph Macchio was playing the slide guitar in the end when they're doing the battle with Steve Vai and stuff. But it was I think it was Ry Cooder that was playing that slide guitar. But that's what I was envisioning in my mind, cutting heads with James Hill on stage, and it's like this is crazy. Can't believe I'm playing with James Hill right now on stage.
Yeah.
It's fanboyed out.
Did he take off his slide and also start playing classical music too? And then it's just like, okay,
I'm sure he could.
Yeah, I think he could.
Yeah.
He's too good. Fanboyed out. Still a huge fanboy of James Hill. All right, next up.
Yeah, so Pete, it's kind of funny because Pete said, this is how I feel when I play along with the Aloha Friday Jam. And he sent a video of like people trying to run down a hill, and they kind of like, they're running okay at first, but then they trip, and then you just see them tumble all the way down the hill, right? So he's like, and then he's like, I'm a pretty raw beginner, been playing for almost 2 months. But on a fun song like Drop Baby Drop, for example, I start out fine and the chord changes aren't a huge issue, but eventually things start to go sideways and I feel like I'm banging around on my uke like a gorilla. Any advice on how I can better stay in control?
Okay, since they're talking about Low Friday Live Jam, I'll answer this one first. So as far as the Low Friday Live Jam goes, because it goes kind of fast, you know, like the if you would call it a tutorial, like for for the song that we're about to jam, is really super duper fast. Like I'm just like, oh, here's the chords, here's kind of how you play those chords. All right, everybody, let's go, and the chords are in front of you. So if the chords are not a problem, I would kind of suggest not focusing on here's the dirty word nowadays, which is like strumming pattern. Like it's become kind of a dirty word, because if you focus on the pattern, then that's kind of it's like you're chasing after a wheel of cheese. I saw the video. It's like guys running down the hill trying to chase a wheel of cheese. It's kind of like you're chasing a wheel of cheese, because if you start to think about where you are in the pattern, that's it. You're done. Like you're going to be lost already. But if you think of it as the rhythm or a groove, it's kind of easier to find a groove if you lose it. So if you're going downhill and stuff, if you just kind of stop for a second, but your left hand is still kind of following the chords, getting back into the groove by just finding the down beats, and coming from there. Just if you're ever lost, if you are doing the fancy schmancy rolls with the chunks and with the whatevers, if you get lost doing that, go back to the basics of just kind of strumming down strums and finding the groove again. Once you find a groove, then you can kind of start to add the ups, start to add the chunks and the rolls and stuff. But don't think of rhythm as kind of a set in stone pattern, because that pattern can change at any time. Just like with with a drum beat, I always kind of make comparisons to my right hand as kind of the drummer of my ukulele, because the drum beat although it's pretty steady, throughout the groove. When there's room for it, if it calls it, it's going to do that. Or there's always all these different rhythms that it's gonna come up with, and it's not necessarily just the same thing over and over. So same thing with strumming patterns, not the same pattern over and over. You can change it up as long as you're following the groove, as long as you're still in rhythm. It should be fine. So I think that's what you need to keep in mind. That if you ever get lost, if you ever feel like you're running down the hill trying to catch up with what you were doing, take it back. Take a step back and take it back to the beginning. Take it back to the basics of just down, 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 down. Find the tempo, find the groove, and then you can kind of go back from there. So
yep.
Let's now go back to Brad.
Well, I think you nailed it with just muting with your left hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the root of everything. Like you said, is the rhythm. It's completely the fundamental, and if it's not groovy, there's kind of no point. So if you can break down what you're doing, if what you're doing currently is like too overwhelming, you just do less, and you focus on just your right hand. It's like, okay, I'm just going to find the groove and groove with my right hand. That's great. And if that becomes second nature, then you can probably stop thinking about this a little bit and bring in the left hand and work on the chords. And if the chords are too fast, play just like the first chord of the progression, and really get into it on that one chord, and then go back to muting, and sort of fill in the blanks that way, and in that you're taking away the material that is overwhelming you at the time, and you can kind of succeed at a lower level that's closer to your skill, and you kind of fine tune the challenge that you're giving yourself just in that way, because you don't always have to do everything all the time.
Yeah.
Anything, Gary?
Yeah.
Good answer.
I always kind of.
I concur.
Yeah. I always tell people that. Pretty much ditto. But like I always tell people to go back to like the shaker, because that's basically what strumming is keeping your rhythm with a shaker. If you can do that, then that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just think of your right hand like you have a shaker in your hand, and you're just trying to keep rhythm. And if you can make the shaker sound good, you can probably make your strumming sound pretty good to match the song.
Yeah. I was kind of talking to somebody who had kind of a similar problem. Like, they were saying, oh, I can't play along and sing and do all these things at the same time. Like, isn't that what I'm just supposed to be trying to do? And I kind of told him, like, it seems counterintuitive, where it's like, when you watch people play music, right, you think like, oh, they're in control of the music, and they're thinking about everything they want to be doing, and they know exactly what they should be doing and everything. But really, like, I think when you get better as a musician, you're actually minimizing the amount of thinking that you're doing, because the more that you think, the more that it kind of like stutters, or there's delay between your brain and your hands and stuff. And that's for me, that's like what causes when I'm like, oh no, I'm losing grip on the wheel and everything is going crazy, like I'm starting to roll down that hill, is like when I start to think about like, oh, isn't it supposed to be this chord, or isn't it supposed to be this like technique that I'm doing, and then like I start to like think more, so my hands like aren't in time anymore. And I think that's really what causes it. So like when easing it up or making it easier is taking less of that focus on and it's just building it up until you can do like more complex chords or more complex strumming patterns, quote unquote, like without really thinking about it. So that's pretty much it. Like, if you're playing along and you're stumbling, it's probably because you're like thinking about what you should be doing, or you're thinking about like, oh, this is gonna be coming up next or whatever, and maybe just like take a breath and then like relax a little bit and get recentered, and you'll probably find it gets easier. Yeah.
You'll also probably find it's much more fun, like if you don't put so much pressure on yourself. I mean, like, Aloha Friday Live Jam is exactly that. It's just supposed to be fun, So if it's starting to get stressful, you're like, oh, I can't keep up and whatnot. Like you don't, like what Brad said, you don't have to do everything. Just do the downstrums, and you can always do that. We always start out the song that way too. You know, it's like you can either take it easy, just kind of do, you know, just follow the groove by just doing some downstrums or down up, or you can do a more syncopated strum, and then you know we kind of explain that. So if you ever find yourself getting lost or falling down the hill, just revert back to just doing the quarter notes, even if you want to take it that easy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think I think people are so enthusiastic about getting to the point where they can play like the person they see or play along exactly to the song that they're just like, I'm trying to do that now, right? But it's like we always said, like beginner isn't a dirty word, and going back to like it's better to go back to that, you know, point where it's really easy for you to do and you're having fun and you can do along to it, than to just like try to, I'm gonna run to try and keep up with everybody, but I keep stumbling and falling. Is like, that doesn't sound very fun. That sounds like you're kind of fighting the whole time when it should be like a fun experience.
It should be about the journey. It should be about, you know, like, and it, you don't get to that level like just kind of overnight, especially if you're a beginner. You know, beginner is not a dirty word and stuff. Like Brad's uke doesn't get that dark by itself. You know, like he played it a lot and he practiced a lot, and now he's at the level that he's at. So, you know, there's really no shame in like, okay, well, I got lost, so I'm just gonna try to like pick it back up from here. Instead of like, oh, I got lost. Oh, where was I? I need to. Oh, picking is coming up and whatever. You know, like just instead of stressing out about it, just take it easy.
Yeah. Actually, there's an article that you wrote, Brad, on your website, and it was like a long time ago, but it had some like I still like forward it to people who ask about certain people talk about like UAS, and people talk about like, oh, I don't sound just like Jake, you know, or they want to do stuff that's a little bit beyond. But I often forward this article, and it's just something that you wrote. It was like it had something to do with like tone. I don't know if you remember it. It's like it's in your fingers, and like something about you trying. I think it was Herb. Was it Herb over the Junior's ukulele? And it like you played his ukulele, and it sounded like you or something like that. It had something to do with that. Like, could you talk about that? Because it was like, it's something that I still like, you know, I'll try to find it and then I'll forward it to people to this day.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that when you play an instrument, you are imprinting your fingerprint on the music. And that, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I'm happy to tell people that that's just the way it is that when you pick up an instrument and you play something, you're going to sound like you, period, end of story. Of course, you can kind of study and practice sounding like somebody else. And as you improve along the path and listen to different people and find different inspirations, you're going to pull some of that in and, you know, kind of change your sound, and it's going to evolve. And you might, for 1 year, you're going to sound more like this guy because you're listening to a lot of his stuff and, you know, trying to emulate that sound, which is just a process of learning. But at the end of the day, when you pick up an ukulele, any ukulele, it's going to sound like you. And I've played, you know, just along the way, a lot of greats ukuleles, like the actual musician greats. And, you know, I pick it up, it's like, oh wow, it's Uncle Led's ukulele, or oh wow, it's James's ukulele, or oh wow, it's Herb's ukulele. And it's always just like, oh well, still sound like me. and it's not, I know it's not just me, because I've seen these guys swap instruments around and they still sound like them. Like I remember one workshop that it's just kind of kicking around in the parlor area of the house we were doing the workshop in. And James was there hanging out, and there were a bunch of student ukuleles on the side. They were like Macala, early stage, low quality control, bad beginner ukuleles. And he picked it up, and he sounded like James on this little teeny tiny ukulele that you'd never think to see James playing. And there he was, and he sounded just like him. I mean, it wasn't exactly the same because it's a different style instrument, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, that's James playing. And so I think that it's easy for people to get caught up in oh, maybe another ukulele will help me sound better or different, or new strings or this gear and this, that, and the other thing. And really, at the end of the day, the best thing you can do for your sound is to practice and practice intentionally with, I want to sound better. What do I do to improve my tone as a player, instead of looking for it in the instrument?
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well said.
It totally sounds like things that we get asked, or like, everybody asks, oh, what strings are you guys using? Because it sounds so good. But it's like, well, that's not necessarily the best strings for you. You got to figure that out. So it really does come back to, you have to just figure out what you want to sound like, and work at it. Yeah.
And that's not to say that like a good instrument or good strings aren't super important, because they are, absolutely. But on the scale of things, once you get to a certain point, a new ukulele, if you're a beginner, a new ukulele or a $2,000 ukulele isn't necessarily going to make you not a beginner or make you sound like you're not a beginner. So, but that nice ukulele might inspire you to play better. It might increase the ceiling of your potential, because it has the ability to make a better sound probably than a student model. But at the end of the day, most of the sound comes from the player.
Yeah.
Right on. So I think it's a great place to kind of put a pin on there. Well, thank you so much, Brad, for coming in and sharing your wisdom, man. Thank you so much. So tell the audience where they can find you, where they can kind of look more of your stuff.
Yeah. So my main home on the web is liveukulele.com. I've got free lessons and tabs and song sheets and chord charts and all that, along with my premium ebooks, where I put the most time and effort. I've got a couple new ones that I'm excited about right hand technique and left hand technique, and just real deep encyclopedia like guides to what you need to do to improve upon your fundamentals and improve your tone. And yeah, I'm also on YouTube, and I try and do the social media thing, though that's not quite so much my jam. But liveukulele.com is the main place.
Where can they download your albums or buy them or anything like that?
The albums are all on Bandcamp. You just search Brad Bordessa, you can hear the albums. And I've got one that's an EP of original instrumentals, and one that's a little bit more folk rock, mainstream, but with ukulele in context.
Right on.
People don't like that one as much. I was like, I put my heart and soul into this one. This is supposed to be the one you like.
Well, we'll tell all our members, get this one and make sure to give it a high rating. Yeah.
Right on, man. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, so like he came in clutch kind of last minute, because I just asked him this morning. So thank you so much, Brad,
thank you guys
for showing up. Thank you. And you do a podcast as well. So where can they find your pod?
It's not nearly as nice or organized or scheduled steady as yours. But just during the quarantine, I've been interviewing some of my ukulele friends and putting it up on my YouTube channel. So those can all be found there. Look, I think actually my channel's under Brad Bordessa these days.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, guys. That's going to be it for Thursday Live Lesson. We see you folks next time. Have a great one, and aloha.